G'day guys, Josh here, brewing a stone beer today. Very exciting. Got my axe to chop my wood. Got my fire pit. Stone's already heating up in the fire. Later on, I'll be using my garden fork to lift the stones into the wort. Don't forget, always have your welding gloves or gloves to cover your hands. Long sleeve shirt made of cotton or wool, best protection. Long pants. Don't want any accidents. Of course, you always want to stay hydrated with a cup of tea or a glass of water. Stick around, watch the rest of the show. So that's the fire pit. There's 13 stones underneath the wood. Hopefully I can get 5 minutes of boil out of each stone and then I'll be laughing. The stones I'm using are New Zealand Super Greys. I've picked them up from Menai Sand and Soil. They worked well last year. A little bit of cracking, but not too bad. So we're going to give them another go this year. Hold the heat pretty well. Didn't explode or anything like a river pebble. So it's time to light the fire. Alright, so the fire's been lit. As you can see, we're away, plenty of flames up. The reason the stones are on the bottom of the fire is because we need the coals to drop down on top of the stones. I discovered last year it's too hard to add stones to the fire later to get enough heat in the stones. So you want them to be underneath the fire and let the coals fall down on top of them so they can have as much heat as possible in the stones. So the fire's coming along nicely now, just building it up on all sides of the fire pit, as you can see. All 13 stones underneath the fire at the moment, so the coals will settle straight down on top of them. And the fire's going pretty well at the moment, almost ready for another log. Wood I'm using, just some mixed hardwood I picked up from the firewood yard out on Walgrove Road. 27 cents a kilo. Just weigh your car in on the way in, weigh on the way out, and pay and off you go. Working pretty well for the moment. The fire's going on well outside, ready to mash in. Here's the recipe on Beersmith. Steinbier porter, going with 6 kilos of base grain Barrett Burston pale malt, and then all the specialty grains there. Amber, Cara, Aroma, Cara Munich, Cara Red, Chocolate and Victory. Just some neutral bittering hops at 60 minutes and that's it. And fermented with Wyeast London Ale 3. Going with a 3 litre starter. 3 litre starter and just a single infusion with a mash out. 66 degrees on the mash. Josh's ale ferment, pitch at about 17, let it rise to 20, and then a period of cold conditioning. Alright, back out to the fire. Back outside, the fire's kicking along really well. Coals forming underneath, starting to heat the rocks up nicely, so time to mash in. Mash has just started, underletting into the grains at the moment. Like all good brewers, I like to listen to a podcast while I'm brewing, and as you can see, Bats and Balls podcast, talking all things sport in Australia and around the world, NRL, AFL, a bit of basketball, American football, a little bit of soccer, so check that out as well. So the mash is kicking along fine here. We'll just check the temperature, and sitting at 67 degrees, so that's about right. It's been going for about 45 minutes. We've got the hot liquor tank here, heating the water up. You can hear the gas in the background, just heating up some water in the kettle. just to sanitize the hoses and whatnot. So mash going fine. Should be ready to sparge in about 15-20 minutes. Rock's heating up well there, just waiting on the hot liquor tank to heat up for the sparge. Catching up on another podcast here. This is Inebriation Nation, talking craft beer around Sydney and around the world, and a little bit of homebrew. Inebriation Nation. Alright, the sparge is underway. Hot liquor going in the top of the mash. And run off into the kettle there. Bit hard to see with all the steam coming out. Here's the hops I'm using today. I would have gone with all Magnum, but I only had 15 grams. So run with 15 grams of ADHA 529 experimental hop as well. From Absolute Homebrew and Barley Man, a couple of good homebrew shops in Sydney. G'day Pat and Nick. Okay, back outside. So the sparge is just about complete. I've got my trusty refractometer here, and the reading is about 15 bricks. So we're looking at about 1060 starting gravity before the boil. So should be a good, strong, robust porter. Alright, ready to put our first rock into the wort. Got my welding gloves, got my fork. Let's go see what I can do. This little piece here is split, so we'll just use a small rock just to see how it works at the start. Alright, so I've got a couple of split pieces just to test them out in the wort first. Right. There's 3 rocks currently in there. At the end of the sparge, the temperature was at about 65 degrees. Now I've just tested this out. The energy is still coming out of the rocks at the moment, so it's heating up the wort. As you can see, it's rising up close to 80 degrees at the moment. So I add another couple more and we should be boiling. So I've added 2 more rocks. You can't really make it out on the thermometer, but it's at about 97 degrees now, so 1 more rock will get it to rolling, I'd say. You can hear a dull roar coming from the rocks as they expend their energy. So it only took another half a rock, but now we're rolling. About 30 seconds ago I added another stone. You can see it's quite a violent boil right at the start, very vigorous. Settles down to about this kind of roll for about 5 minutes and then we'll add another one. So this is the fire pit now. As you can see, still quite a few stones underneath the coals there. I'll be using those periodically over the next sort of 45 minutes or so we've got left in the boil. So I've had a bit of a boil over, dropped a quite a large stone in there, and yeah, it's just boiling over a little bit at the minute. Not a massive problem. I did have quite a large volume in there, so should still get the 20 litres out of it. This is about 30 seconds later. As you can see, it stopped spewing over the top. Still very violent boil at the moment. It was quite a large rock, so it should have quite a bit of energy to expel. So another stone just gone in. Got about 15 minutes left in the boil. Got about 2 big stones left in the fire. So I think we should have just enough to give us a 60-minute boil. Seems to have worked quite well. Okay, so all the big rocks have been used. It's about 70 minutes since the start of the boil. So time to finish it up. So the last stone was put in about 5 minutes ago. See, there's still a little bit of activity there. Just wait for that to die down and then we'll go under the whirlpool and put it in the cube. Speaking of the cube, it's over here. I'm a no-chill brewer, so I've just had it filled with Star San, sanitized the cube. Just draining it out now, and then we'll be ready to cube this wort. So all the activity's finished. You can see it's still quite hot. Still steam coming off it. I haven't added another rock for the last 10 minutes or so. And you can see that's as deep as the spoon will go in some spots. So the rocks are quite high. Down this side I can get a bit deeper. So ordinarily I'd do a whirlpool. And I'll try and get a little one going, but not overly necessary with all the rocks inside. And once it's drained out I'll show you why. So just put the lid back on and we'll get into draining the kettle. So we're running off into the cube to no chill. Get 20 litres into the cube, and then if there's any left over I'll put it in the flask and use that for a starter. I'll ferment the starter at fermentation temperature. I'll probably just leave it at about 17 degrees and then I'll just be able to use that straight into the full volume. Using 30 litre fermenters, so I can easily go up to 23 or 25 litres and still have enough headspace. Alright, getting up to 20 litres now. As you can see, the Star San foam coming out the top of the cube. As the saying goes, don't fear the foam. Should have a little bit left over to go into the conical flask. So just turn the ball valve off there. We'll run straight into the flask. I don't have to be too worried about sanitation with the Aroma flask because I can always put it back on the hot plate just to kill any bugs that have got in there in the last few minutes. So I wound up with about 20 litres in the cube and another 4.5 in the Aroma flask. So that'll be a full starter. I'll just pitch the yeast straight into that, pitch it at pitching temperature, and I'll add that whole starter straight into the fermenter when it comes time to pitch the full yeast. Now we have a look in the kettle. There's the rocks. Might leave the lid off and let the steam go away for a minute. So you can see down the bottom there, I've drained the kettle. You can see just how many rocks have been used in making the stone beer. And if I just focus in on one of these rocks here, you can see a lot of hot break material, hot matter, all catching on the rocks. Quite a large surface area of rocks, kind of like the old Budweiser beechwood chips catching the yeast as a clarifying agent. Same deal here. So Wasn't able to do a whirlpool, but it doesn't really matter because of all the surface area to be able to catch all the physical material before you drain into your cube or into your fermenter. So that's it for Stone Beer 2015 brew day. Got myself 25 litres of Stone Beer wort ready to ferment with my London Ale 3 yeast. Things to remember: get yourself rocks that can handle the fire. I've got New Zealand Super Greys, granite works well. Stone and wood, the brewery use lava, so if you can get your hands on lava, that'll work fine. Build your fire correctly, put the stones at the bottom, let all the coals fall down on top of the stones. Creates maximum heat for the stones. You can just drop them in the wort like I did using a fork, or if you can fashion up a basket using some stainless kind of basket, chip basket or something from a chip shop, that'll work really well as well. Wear your safety clothes, wear long pants, wear long sleeves, welding gloves, just to stop yourself getting burned, and also lay off the beers until afterwards, because while you can have a beer normally when you're just brewing with your gas, you got fire and rocks and everything else that could just create a few more problems. So save the beer till the end. Cheers. If you want to catch up with me, you can get me on Twitter at PiersJosh. Check out the 2 podcasts that I appear on. Bats and Balls podcast talks about sport, and Inebriation Nation talking about craft beer and a little bit of homebrew. That's it for now. I'll talk to you again soon.